patrol ship Eternal Compliance moved through the darkness of space like a metal insect. It was a Marvani vessel, built for speed and purpose. The Marvani were an insect-like species with hard shells and many eyes. They believed in rules. They believed in order. And they believed that every ship in their patrol zone must follow the law. Commander Thrall stood on the bridge. He was tall for his kind, with dark green shell plates and compound eyes that could see in many directions at once. His mandibles clicked softly as he watched the scanner screens. For 3 days, there had been nothing interesting. Just empty space and distant stars. Then the scanner made a sound. "Commander," said the officer at the scanning station, "we have found something. A small ship. It is not moving." Thrall walked closer to look at the screen. He saw a tiny vessel floating in the void. It was not a design he knew well, but he recognized the markings. Human. The humans were a newer species in the galaxy. They had only been traveling between stars for about 200 years. The Marvani had been doing it for 3,000. "Is it damaged?" Thrall asked. "Engines are offline. Life support is working. There are life signs inside." The officer paused. 23 life signs. 23 beings on such a small ship. That was strange. Thrall made his decision quickly. "Bring them in. We will inspect the vessel." The small human ship was pulled into the docking bay of the Eternal Compliance. Thrall took 10 guards with him to meet whoever was inside. He did not expect trouble, but he always prepared for it. That was the Marvani way. The door of the human ship opened slowly. White mist came out from the pressure difference. Then Thrall saw them. They were small, very small. The first one to step out was the largest, but even he was shorter than the smallest Marvani adult. He had black hair and dark eyes that looked around the docking bay with careful attention. Behind him came more of them. Small humans. So many small humans. "I am Kim Do-yoon," said the first one. His voice was steady but young. "We are from the colony ship New Bizane. Our ship had problems. Our teacher sent us ahead in the emergency shuttle while she stayed to fix the main ship. We ran out of fuel." Thrall studied the small human. He spoke well. He seemed intelligent. But there was something strange about all of them. They were too small. Were humans always this size? He had only met a few humans before, and they had been much bigger. "Where are your identification documents?" Thrall asked. Do-hyun looked back at the other small humans. A female with short hair stepped forward. "I am Lee Hammond," she said. "Our documents are in the ship's computer, but the computer is damaged. We cannot access them. No documents. An unregistered ship. 23 beings of unknown status." Thrall's training told him exactly what to do. "You will come with us," he said. "You will be processed at the detention center on Station Korth 9. This is standard procedure." "Detention?" Do-hyun's eyes went wide. "But we are not criminals. We are just students. We were on a school trip." Thrall did not understand that word. School. Trip. These concepts did not translate well into his language. He only understood that these were unidentified beings on an unregistered ship. The law was clear. "You will come with us," he repeated. The small humans looked at each other. Some of them looked scared. One of the smallest ones, a female with round cheeks and big eyes, started to cry. Do-hyun quickly went to her. "It is okay, Hanyul," he said softly. "Do not cry. We will be fine. This is just a mistake. Someone will come for us soon." He picked up the small crying one and carried her in his arms. Then he looked at Thrall with those steady dark eyes. "We will go with you," he said. "But please understand, we are just children." Children. Thrall had heard this word before, but it meant nothing to him. In Marvani society, Young ones hatched from eggs and were independent within 3 months. They did not need care. They did not need protection. They simply grew and learned and joined society. He did not understand that human children were different. He did not understand that these small beings were not small adults. They were young. They were vulnerable. They needed care and protection and warmth. He understood none of this. "Follow me," Thrall said. The small humans followed. Do-hyun walked at the front, still carrying little Hanyul. Behind him came Jimin, then a boy named Choi Minho, who made funny faces at the younger ones to stop them from being scared. There were 23 of them in total. The oldest was 15. The youngest was 7. They were taken to the detention center on Station Korth 9. It was a cold place. The walls were gray metal. The lights were bright and never turned off. The cells were designed for adult criminals from many different species. They were not designed for human children. The Morvani guards put all 23 of them in one large cell. There were no beds. There were no blankets. The floor was cold metal. The food they were given was a gray paste that tasted like nothing. "This is wrong," Hemon said quietly to Do-hyun. "They cannot treat us like this." "I know," Do-hyun replied. "But we must stay calm. We must stay together. Help is coming. Teacher Park knows where we went. She will send someone." He did not feel as confident as he sounded, but he knew the younger ones were watching him. He knew they were scared. He had to be strong for them. Minho sat down next to a group of the youngest children. "Hey," he said with a big smile. "Do you want to see something funny?" He crossed his eyes and stuck out his tongue. The little ones giggled. "More," said little Somi. "Do more funny faces." Minho did more. He made himself look like a fish. He made himself look like a monkey. He made the children laugh, even though they were in a cold cell with no beds and strange food. Do-hyun watched Minho and felt grateful. They needed laughter. They needed hope. The first day passed, then the second, then the third. No one came. Do-hyun organized the group. He made a system. The older ones would take turns holding the younger ones to keep them warm. They would sleep in shifts. They would share the strange food equally. They would sing songs together to keep their spirits up. "My mother used to sing this song to me," said little Hanyul one night. She sang a few words in a small, thin voice. Soon the others joined in. 23 voices singing in the cold metal cell. The Morvani guards outside did not understand the song. They did not understand why these beings made such sounds. They simply wrote in their reports that the detainees were displaying unusual group behavior. By the 5th day, some of the youngest ones were getting sick. The food was not right for their bodies. The cold was too much. Little Hanyul developed a cough. Somi stopped eating. Do-hyun went to the cell door and called for the guards. "Please," he said. "The little ones are sick. They need medicine. They need blankets. They need proper food." The Morvani guard looked at him with compound eyes that showed no understanding. "Medical support is not authorized for your classification," the guard said. "You are listed as unidentified migrants awaiting processing." "We are children," Do-hyun shouted. For the first time, his voice cracked. "Do you not understand? We are young. We are not adults. We need help." The guard walked away. Do-hyun stood at the door for a long time. His hands shook. His eyes burned with tears he refused to let fall. Behind him, Minho was still making the younger ones laugh, but the laughter sounded weaker now. 9 days. They spent 9 days in that cell. 9 days of cold metal floors. 9 days of lights that never turned off. 9 days of bad food and no medicine and guards who did not understand what they were looking at. But Kim Do-hyun kept them together. He kept them organized. He kept him hoping. "Help is coming," he said every morning. "We just have to wait a little longer." He did not know if it was true, but he said it anyway, because that was what the younger ones needed to hear. And far away, across the galaxy, help was indeed coming, but it would come from a direction no one expected. Ambassador Kale had seen many things in his long life. He was a Thesari, one of the oldest species in the galaxy. The Thesari were tall beings, almost 3 meters in height, with silver skin and eyes that glowed soft blue. They moved slowly and spoke carefully. They had been traveling among the stars for 40,000 years. Kale himself was 400 years old. He had witnessed wars and peace treaties. He had watched empires grow and fall. He had met thousands of different species and learned their ways. Very few things in the galaxy could surprise him anymore. He was at Station Korath 9 for a routine inspection. The Thesari often did such inspections. They were respected by all species, and their reports helped keep the Galactic Union fair and honest. It was boring work, but important work. The station administrator, a Morvani named Vex, showed Kale around the facility. They visited the trade areas. They visited the residential sections. They visited the medical bay. Everything seemed normal and proper. "Is there anything else to inspect?" Kale asked. His voice was deep and slow, like distant thunder. "Only the detention center," Vex said. "But there is nothing interesting there. Just some migrants waiting to be processed." "I will inspect it anyway," Kale said. "That is my duty." Vex's antennae moved in a way that suggested nervousness, but he agreed. They took a transport pod to the detention section of the station. It was in a lower area, far from the nice parts. The halls were narrow and the lights were harsh. They passed many cells. Most were empty. A few contained various beings from different species, all waiting for their cases to be reviewed. Kale looked at each one and made notes in his recording device. Then they reached Detention Block 7. Kale heard them before he saw them. Voices. Many voices together, making sounds in a pattern. It took him a moment to understand what he was hearing. Singing. They were singing. He walked faster. His long legs carried him to the viewing window of the large cell at the end of the block. What he saw there made him stop completely. Small beings. Human beings, but very small. They were huddled together on the cold floor, pressed close to each other for warmth. The older ones sat on the outside of the group, with the smallest ones in the middle. One of them, a male with messy black hair, was leading the singing. The song was in a human language that Kale did not know, but the melody was soft and gentle. As he watched, the song ended. The small humans shifted positions. The ones who had been holding smaller ones handed them to others and moved to the outside of the group. It was organized. It was systematic. These little beings had created a rotation to share body heat. One of them looked up and saw Kale through the window. It was a small female with large eyes and round cheeks. She looked tired. She looked weak. But when she saw the tall silver being watching them, she stood up and walked to the door of the cell. "Are you here to help us, mister?" she asked. Her voice was thin and soft. "Donapa says help is coming, but it is taking a really long time. Some of us are sick. Haniel has been coughing a lot. Can you help us?" Kale felt something move in his chest. It was an old feeling, one he had not experienced in over 3 centuries. It started as confusion, then became understanding, and then became something hot and sharp. Rage. He turned to Vex, who stood behind him looking bored. "Explain this," Kale said. "Explain what?" Vex asked. "They had detained migrants. They were found on an unregistered ship with no proper documents. Standard procedure requires them to be held until their status can be determined." "How long have they been here?" Vex checked his datapad. 9 days. 9 days. These small beings had been in this cold cell for 9 days. "These are children," Kale said. Each word came out slowly, carefully, like stones being placed one by one. Vex's antennae twitched. "They appear smaller than standard humans, yes, but our medical scanners confirm they are human. Perhaps they are a smaller variety. Some species have different sizes depending on their home world. They are not a smaller variety." Kale's voice dropped lower. It was quiet now, but there was something dangerous in it. "They are not small adults. They are young humans, offspring, children. What is the difference?" Vex asked. He seemed genuinely confused. "They were unaccompanied. They had no documents. We followed the law." Kale looked back through the window. The small female was still standing there, looking up at him with hopeful eyes. Behind her, the black-haired male had stood up and was watching carefully. He had dark circles under his eyes. He looked exhausted, but he stood straight, and his face showed no fear. That one had been protecting the others. Kale realized. That young one had been leading them, caring for them, keeping them alive and hopeful for 9 days in this terrible place. "What is your name?" Kale asked the small female through the speaker system. "I am Beak Somi," she said. "I am 8 years old." 8 years. In the Sari terms, that was barely past infancy. The Dazari matured slowly over centuries, but Kale had studied humans. He knew their life cycle. An 8-year-old human was still a small child, dependent on adults for everything. "And the tall one behind you?" The black-haired male stepped forward. "I am Kim Do-yoon. I am 15. I am the oldest. 15. Still a child by human standards. Still years away from maturity. And he had been taking care of 22 younger children for 9 days in a detention cell." Kale turned back to Vex. His blue eyes were glowing brighter now, a sign of strong emotion among the Vasari. "You have made a terrible mistake," he said. "I do not understand," Vex replied. "We followed protocol. Regulation 447C clearly states that unidentified migrants must be held until Regulation 447C is meant for adults." Kale's voice was rising now, losing its usual calm. "For beings who can care for themselves. For individuals who understand their situation and can advocate for their own needs." He pointed at the cell. "Those are not adults. Those are babies. Human babies. They do not appear to be infants," Vex said. "They can walk and speak. Human. Children remain dependent on adult care for 15 to 20 years. Kale cut him off. "They are born helpless. They require constant protection, nutrition, emotional support, and guidance for decades before they reach maturity. A 15-year-old human is like a Morvani larvae that has been out of the egg for only a few weeks. They are vulnerable. They are precious. And you have been keeping them in a cell designed for criminals." Vex's compound eyes blinked rapidly. The information was not connecting for him. The Morvani did not raise their young. They hatched independent and joined society immediately. The concept of long-term child rearing was alien to everything he knew. "I did not know," Vex said slowly. "That is why it is a mistake and not a crime," Kale replied. "But it is still a terrible mistake, and it must be corrected immediately." He activated his communication device. "This is Ambassador Kale. Diplomatic Corps. Priority Channel 7. I am declaring a Category 1 emergency at Station Korath 9. 23. Human miners have been wrongfully detained in unsuitable conditions for 9 days. I need a medical team immediately. I need nutrition supplies suitable for human young. I need blankets and comfortable bedding. And I need a direct line to the Galactic Union Council." The station seemed to wake up around him. Suddenly, there were people running, orders being shouted, things happening. Kale walked to the cell door and entered the code to open it. The door slid aside. The small humans all looked up at him. Some of them pulled back in fear. He was very tall to them. He must have looked like a giant, but little Somi did not pull back. She walked right up to him and looked up at his face. "Thank you, mister," she said. "I knew someone would help us." Kale knelt down slowly, bringing himself closer to her level. It hurt his old joints to do so, but he did not care. "You are safe now," he said gently. "I am sorry for what has happened to you." "I'm sorry it took so long." Kim Do-yoon came forward. His face was still controlled, still calm, but Kale could see his hands were shaking. "What will happen to us?" Do-yoon asked. "You will be taken care of properly. You will be fed and kept warm. Your sick ones will receive medicine. And I will make sure the entire galaxy knows what happened here." Kale paused. "You have been very brave, all of you. But especially you. You kept them together. You kept them alive." Something in Do-yoon's face cracked, just a little. Just for a moment. His eyes got wet, but he blinked the tears away. "I had to," he said simply. "They are younger than me. They needed someone." Kale nodded slowly. In that moment, he felt deep respect for this small human. 15 years old, just a child himself. And he had done what adults from advanced civilizations had failed to do. He had cared for the vulnerable. "The galaxy will hear about your courage," Kale said. "I promise you that." Medical teams arrived. Blankets were brought. Proper food was prepared. Little Haniel was given medicine for her cough. Somi started eating again, and across the communications networks of the Galactic Union, the message spread. Human children had been imprisoned. Human young had been treated like criminals. The galaxy was about to learn exactly how humans felt about their children. The message from Ambassador Kale reached the Galactic Union Council within hours. Within a day, something happened that had not happened in 17 years. An emergency session was called. The Great Council Chamber on Unity Prime was one of the largest rooms ever built. It was shaped like a massive bowl, with hundreds of seating areas arranged in circles around a central platform. Each seating area was designed to fit different species. Some needed water. Some needed special atmosphere. Some needed darkness. The Galactic Union had over 200 member species, and the chamber could hold representatives from all of them. Today, it was full. News had spread fast through the communication networks. Human children detained. Human young treated like criminals. The story had caught the attention of every species in the Union. Some were curious. Some were confused. And some, especially those who raised their own young, were angry. The human delegation sat in their usual area. They were quiet. Their faces were hard to read. But those who knew humans well could see the tension in their bodies. They sat too straight. Their hands were too still. Their eyes watched everything. Elder Counselor Vareth called the session to order. She was 800 years old, the most senior member of the Zasari delegation and the most respected voice in the council. When she spoke, everyone listened. "We are here because of a serious matter," Vareth began. Her voice filled the chamber, deep and clear. 23 human beings were detained at Station Korth 9 for 9 days. They were held in conditions designed for adult criminals. They were given inadequate food, no proper sleeping arrangements, and no medical care. She paused. They were children. The oldest was 15 years of age by human measurement. The youngest was 7. A murmur went through the chamber. Many species did not yet understand the significance. Varath activated the holographic display. Images appeared in the center of the chamber. The council saw the cold metal cell. They saw the small humans huddled together for warmth. They saw the rotation system that Do-hyun had created, with older children taking turns holding younger ones. These images were recorded by Ambassador Kale during his inspection. Varath continued. What you are seeing is a group of young humans trying to survive in conditions no child should experience. The Morvani delegation requested to speak. Their lead representative, High Commander Zeth, rose from his seat. "The Council must understand that my people did not intend any harm," Zeth said. His mandibles clicked as he spoke, a sign of stress. Commander Thro followed standard protocol for unidentified migrants. The regulations clearly state that individuals without proper documentation must be held until their status is determined. There was no malice in his actions. "No malice," Bareth repeated. "Only ignorance." "We did not know," Zeth continued. "In Marvani society, offspring are independent within 3 lunar cycles of hatching. They do not require extended care. They do not form dependent bonds with adults. We did not understand that human young are different." A representative from the Kelther species rose to speak. The Kelther were large furry beings who lived in family groups and raised their young for many years. "How could you not know?" the Kelther representative demanded. "How could any species not understand the concept of children, of young ones who need protection?" "Because not all species have such young," another voice called out. This was from the Ven delegation. The Ven were crystalline beings who reproduced by splitting. They had no concept of childhood at all. The chamber began to buzz with many voices. Some were angry. Some were defending the Morvani. Some were simply confused. The concept of childhood was not universal. Many species in the galaxy developed quickly after birth. Many had no long period of vulnerability. Vareth raised her hand for silence. "This is exactly why we are here," she said. "Not to assign blame, but to understand. And to make sure this never happens again." She turned to the human delegation. "Perhaps it would help if our human colleagues explained to the Council exactly what their children are, what they need, why this situation was so dangerous." The human ambassador rose. Her name was Jang Suna. She was a small woman with gray hair and calm eyes. But when she spoke, her voice carried a weight that filled the chamber. "In human society," she began, "children are everything. They are our future. They are our hope. They are the reason we build and create and dream." She walked to the center platform, where the holographic display still showed the detention cell. Human children are born completely helpless. They cannot walk or feed themselves or communicate for many months. They require constant care, day and night, for years. They develop slowly, learning and growing and forming bonds with those who care for them. A 7-year-old human, like little Yoon Haniel, who you see in this image, has only been alive for 7 years. She is still learning how the world works. She still needs adults to feed her, clothe her, protect her, comfort her when she is scared. Ambassador Jang pointed to another figure in the image. This is Kim Do-young. He is 15. In human terms, he is what we call a teenager. Not yet an adult, but beginning the transition. He is old enough to think for himself, but still young enough to need guidance and protection. She paused, looking around the chamber. When Commander Threll put these children in a cell, he put them in a situation they were not designed to survive. Human young are not meant to be alone. They are not meant to be cold and hungry and scared with no adults to help them. The fact that they survived 9 days is remarkable. It is a sign of their courage and their love for each other. The holographic display changed. Now it showed video footage from inside the cell. The council watched as young Do-hyun organized the rotation system. They watched Choi Min-ho making funny faces to keep the little ones from crying. They watched Lee Himon teaching the younger children words in Galactic Common to pass the time. They watched little Somi sharing her small portion of food with even smaller Hanyul. "Look at them," Ambassador Jang said softly. "Look at what they did to survive. Children taking care of children. The oldest becoming parents to the youngest. This is what human young do when adults fail them. They step up. They take care of each other. They survive." The chamber was completely silent now. But they should not have had to, Jane continued. No child should have to be that strong. No child should have to carry that burden. They should have been safe. They should have been protected. That is the duty of adults. That is the duty of all civilized societies. Vareth spoke again. Ambassador Jiang speaks truth. The treatment of young ones reflects the soul of a civilization. A society that protects its children is a society that believes in the future. A society that harms its children is a society that has lost its way. She looked at the Marvani delegation. We do not believe the Marvani have lost their way. We believe they simply did not understand. But understanding must come now. The Galactic Union cannot allow such a thing to happen again. To any species, to any young ones. The Kelthar representative stood again. I propose that the Council create new regulations. Every member species must register information about their offspring development. How long their young take to mature. What care they require. What conditions they need to survive. This information must be available to all law enforcement and administrative personnel. Many voices called out in agreement. Another representative stood. This one was from the Malori, a species known for their strong family bonds. I propose that special protections be established for young ones of all species. Detention of minors must require different procedures, different facilities, different care. More agreement filled the chamber. Vareth let the discussion continue for some time. Proposals were made. Ideas were shared. The shape of new laws began to form. Finally, she called for silence again. We have much work to do, she said. But before we continue, I want to address something important. The human delegation has been very calm today. Very professional. Very restrained. She looked at Ambassador Jiang. But I have lived 800 years, and I know what restrained anger looks like. Your people are furious. You have every right to be. Your children were harmed. Any species that truly loves its young would feel the same. Jiang nodded slowly. We are angry, she admitted. But we are here to work with the Council, not against it. We understand that this was a mistake born of ignorance, not cruelty. We want solutions, not revenge. That is wise, Vareth said. And it is why humans have earned the respect of many species in this galaxy. You feel deeply. You love fiercely. But you can also think clearly and work toward better futures. She looked around the chamber one more time. Let this day be remembered. Let it be the day that the Galactic Union learned to protect all children. Not just their own. All of them. The session continued for many more hours. Laws were drafted. Regulations were created. The Marvani formally apologized and offered to pay for all medical care and support that the children would need. But far away, in the darkness of space, human ships were already moving. The parents were coming, and they would not be as calm as their ambassador. The distress signal from the colony ship New Bizon had reached Earth 3 days after the children were taken. The signal was weak and broken, but the message was clear. Engine failure. Emergency shuttle launched with school group. Teacher remaining behind. Send help. Help came fast. The colony ship was rescued first. Park Yuna, the teacher who had stayed behind, was brought aboard a rescue vessel. She was exhausted and dehydrated, but she was alive. And her first words when she woke up were about her students. Where are the children? She asked. The shuttle. I sent them ahead. Where are they? The rescue crew did not know. The emergency shuttle had not arrived at any known station or port. It had simply disappeared. For 3 days, Park Yuna refused to rest. She contacted every station in the region. She sent messages to every patrol ship. She begged anyone who would listen to find her students. Then the news came from. Station KORRETH-9. When Yuna heard what had happened, she did not cry. She did not scream. She went very, very quiet. The rescue crew who were watching her said later that the silence was more frightening than any rage they had ever seen. "Take me there," she said. Now, word spread through the human networks faster than light itself could travel. 23 children. School trip. Detained for 9 days. Treated like criminals. Sick and scared and alone. The parents heard. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Families from all over human space demanded transportation to Station Korath 9. They did not ask politely. They did not wait for official channels. They simply demanded, and when the demands were not met fast enough, they found other ways. The heavy cruiser Indomitable Spirit was the first military vessel to respond. Its captain, ruthless, received orders to proceed to Station Korath 9 and observe the situation. He chose to interpret those orders creatively. He stopped at 3 different stations along the way to pick up parents who were trying to reach their children. By the time that the via Indomitable Spirit arrived at Korath 9, it was carrying Park Yuna and 22 sets of parents or grandparents. Captain Ru contacted the station. "This is Captain Ru Tayson of the Indomitable Spirit," he said. "We are requesting permission to dock. We are carrying family members of the detained human miners." There was a pause on the other end. "Indomitable Spirit, this is Station Korath 9 Control. Your request is being reviewed. Please stand by." Ru waited. 1 minute. 2 minutes. 5 minutes. "Control," he said again, his voice perfectly calm. "I was not asking for permission. I was informing you of our arrival. We will dock at Port 7 in approximately 4 hours. I suggest you use that time to prepare." Another pause. "Indomitable Spirit, we cannot authorize military vessels to dock without proper clearance. Please follow standard diplomatic protocols." Captain Ru leaned back in his chair. He was a tall man with a calm face and steady eyes. He had served in the human fleet for 30 years. He had seen combat. He had negotiated with hostile forces. He had never lost his composure. "Control," he said slowly. "There are 22 mothers and fathers on this ship. Some of them have not seen their children in over 2 weeks. Some of them have been told their children were sick and cold and scared. You can tell them they cannot dock. You can tell them they must wait for proper protocols. You can tell them that bureaucracy is more important than their children." He paused, "but I would not recommend it." 4 hours later, the Indomitable Spirit docked at Port 7. No one tried to stop it. The station administrator, Vex, was waiting at the dock with a security team. He had been ordered by the Galactic Council to cooperate fully with the humans, but he was still nervous. Morvani did not understand human emotions very well, but even he could see that these beings were not in a calm state. The dock doors opened. The first person through was Park Yuna. She looked small and tired and determined. Her eyes scanned the area until they found Vex. "Where are my students?" she asked. "They have been moved to the medical center," Vex said quickly. "They are being cared for. They are safe. Take me to them, now." Vex led the way. Behind Yuna came the parents. They moved together, a wave of anxious humans all focused on one goal. Station personnel stepped aside as they passed. Some of them had never seen humans before. They would never forget what they saw that day. The medical center was on the upper level of the station. Ambassador Kale was waiting there. He stayed to make sure the children were properly cared for. When he saw the group of humans approaching, he felt something he had not felt in a long time: relief. "They are inside," Kale said to Park Yuna. "They have been asking for you." Yuna pushed through the doors. What happened next was recorded by station security cameras and later broadcast across the galaxy. The children were in a large room. sitting on proper beds with warm blankets. They looked better than they had in the detention cell. They had been fed and washed and given medical care. But they still looked tired. They still looked scared. Then Dong-Yu saw his teacher. "Teacher Park!" he shouted. 23 heads turned. 23 faces lit up with hope and joy and relief. Yuna ran to them. She dropped to her knees and pulled as many of them into her arms as she could. Children crowded around her, hugging her, crying, calling her name. "I am sorry," Yuna kept saying. "I am so sorry it took so long. I am here now. You are safe now." Behind her, the parents poured into the room. And then the reunions truly began. Oh, Myre, a small woman with tears streaming down her face, found her daughter Haniel. She dropped to her knees and pulled the little girl into her arms. Haniel, who had been coughing and weak for days, seemed to find new strength. She wrapped her thin arms around her mother's neck and held on like she would never let go. "Mama," Haniel whispered. "Mama, I was so scared." "I know, baby. I know. Mama is here now. Mama will never let you go again." Big Junsu, a tall man with gentle eyes, lifted his daughter Somi into his arms. She buried her face in his shoulder and cried. He held her and rocked her and whispered her name over and over. "Somi, my brave little girl." Shin Yunji, Daeheen's grandmother, was a tiny woman barely reaching the chest of most adults. But she walked straight through the crowd until she found her grandson. She reached up and cupped his face in her wrinkled hands. "Dohyun," she said. "My boy." Dohyun looked down at her. He had not cried once in 9 days. He had been strong for the younger ones. He had organized them and protected them and kept them hopeful. But now, looking at his grandmother's face, something inside him finally broke. "Grandmother," he said, his voice cracking. I tried so hard to keep them safe." "You did," she said. "You kept them safe. You were so brave. You can rest now. Grandmother is here." Dahyun fell to his knees and put his arms around the tiny old woman. He cried like the child he still was. Choi Yejin found her son Minho sitting on a bed, still making funny faces for the younger children around him. Even now, even when the parents were arriving, he was still trying to keep the little ones calm. "Minho," his mother said. He looked up. His smile faded. His eyes got wet. "Mom," he said in a small voice. Yejin sat on the bed and pulled him into her lap. He was 10 years old, too big for laps, but she held him anyway. He curled up against her like a much smaller child. "You were being brave," she said softly. "I had to," he replied. "Dohyun is taking care of everyone. I wanted to help. I made them laugh. When they laughed, they were not so scared." Yejin kissed the top of his head. Tears ran down her face. "You did good, Minho. You did so good." The station cameras captured all of it. Journalists from a dozen species were watching the feeds. The images spread across the galaxy. Humans hugging their children. Human parents crying with relief. Human families being reunited after an ordeal that should never have happened. Many species did not fully understand what they were seeing, but they could feel it. There was something powerful in those images. Something raw and real and undeniable. Ambassador Kale watched from the doorway. Beside him stood Captain Rue. "They crossed the galaxy for them," Rue said quietly. "Every parent on this station. They dropped everything. They broke protocols. They challenged an entire galactic system. All for their children." Kale nodded slowly. "I have lived 400 years. I have studied many species, but I have never seen bonds like these. Humans and their children. It is unlike anything else in the galaxy." Rue looked at him. "You did not know? About human families?" "We knew the facts. The development cycles. the dependency periods. But knowing facts and understanding truth are different things. Kale watched as little Haniel fell asleep in her mother's arms, exhausted but finally safe. I did not understand until today. Your young are not just offspring to you. They are pieces of your souls. Rue did not disagree. In the medical center, Park Yuna sat surrounded by her students. Parents were still holding their children, still crying, still whispering words of love and comfort. But the crisis was over. The children were safe. Yuna looked around at all of them. Her students. Her responsibility. For 9 days, she had not known if they were alive or dead. For 9 days, she had blamed herself for sending them away. Now they were here, safe, reunited with their families. I will never let this happen again, she said quietly. Never. No one in the galaxy doubted that she meant it. The images from Station Korath 9 had spread to every corner of known space. Species that had never met humans watched the recordings with fascination. Parents holding children. Tears of joy and relief. Families being put back together after they had been wrongly torn apart. Many species understood immediately. The Kelthar, who raised their young in large family groups, called the humans spiritkin and demanded justice on their behalf. The Melori, known for their gentle, nurturing ways, sent gifts and messages of support to every human embassy in the sector. The Dazari, ancient and wise, nodded their silver heads and said they had always known humans were more than they appeared. Other species took longer to understand. The Ven, who reproduced by splitting into identical copies, could not comprehend why humans were so upset. The copies were separate beings now, they reasoned. Why did the original humans care so much about them? It took many conversations and explanations before the Ven began to understand that human children were not copies. They were new beings, unique and precious, growing and learning with the help of those who loved them. And then there were the Morvani. The Morvani government acted quickly. They understood that they had made a terrible mistake, even if many individual Morvani still did not fully understand why. A formal statement was issued within 2 days of the reunion. The Morvani Collective expresses deep regret for the treatment of human minors at Station Korath 9. While our personnel followed established regulations, we now understand that these regulations did not account for the unique developmental needs of human young. We accept responsibility for this oversight and will work to ensure it never happens again. The statement went on to list the reparations they would provide. Full payment for all medical care the children needed. Educational funds for each child. Compensation to the families for their suffering. And a personal apology from Commander Thrall, who had ordered the detention. But it was Commander Thrall's own words that surprised many people. Thrall had requested permission to address the human families directly. He was not ordered to do this. He chose it himself. When he stood before the parents and children in the station's main hall, he looked different somehow. His compound eyes, which had once shown no understanding, now showed something that might have been shame. I did not know what I was doing, he said. His translator device converted his clicks and buzzes into human speech. When I saw your young ones, I saw only small beings without documents. I did not see children. I did not see precious ones who needed protection. I did not understand. He paused, his antennae lowering in a gesture that meant submission among his kind. Since learning the truth, I have studied human development. I have watched recordings of human families. I have tried to understand what I did. And I am horrified. His voice seemed to break. The Morvani voices were not capable of that exact sound. I put babies in a cell. I gave them inadequate food. I ignored their pleas for help. I treated them like criminals when they were innocent young ones who had done nothing wrong. He looked at Kim Do-yoon, who stood with his grandmother. You, Thrall said to the boy. You are only 15. You are still young yourself. And you did what I should have done. You protected them. You cared for them. You were more adult than I was, and I have lived for 80 years. Dahyun did not respond. He just looked at the commander with steady eyes. I have asked to be removed from service, Threll continued. Not as punishment. I was told I followed regulations and did nothing technically wrong. I asked to be removed because I cannot trust myself in this role anymore. I have learned that following rules is not enough. Sometimes you must understand the beings in front of you, not just the documents that describe them. He bowed low, a gesture he had learned from studying human customs. I am sorry. I cannot undo what I did, but I will spend the rest of my life trying to understand so that no one else makes the same mistake. The room was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, Shin Yoonji stepped forward. Dahyun's grandmother, the tiny old woman with steel in her eyes. She looked up at the tall, insect-like commander. Her face was hard to read. Many in the room held their breath. Then she reached out and patted his forearm, the only part of him she could easily reach. You hurt my grandson, she said. You hurt all of these children. I was very angry at you. Part of me is still angry. Threll's head lowered further. But you came here. You admitted what you did. You are trying to understand. Yoonji's voice softened slightly. That is more than many beings would do. I cannot forgive you yet. That will take time. But I can accept your apology. A ripple of surprise went through the room. The human parents looked at each other. Some seemed unsure, but gradually many of them nodded. The Marvani had been ignorant, not malicious, and they were trying to make things right. The formal reckoning continued over the following weeks. The Galactic Union passed new laws. The Sapient Minor Protection Act required all member species to register detailed information about their young. How long offspring took to mature. What special care they needed. What conditions were harmful to their development. This information would be available to all stations, all patrol ships, all administrative centers. New regulations were created for the detention of any being believed to be a minor. Special facilities would be required. Trained personnel would be necessary. No young one of any species would be held in a cell meant for criminals. But the most important change was harder to measure. It was a change in understanding. Species across the galaxy began to study each other's young. The Kelthar shared information about their family groups with the Ven, who were fascinated by the concept of parental bonds. The Visari, with their centuries of experience, offered guidance to younger species still learning how to interact with others. The Malori created educational materials about nurturing young ones that were translated into hundreds of languages. And humans, for their part, became known throughout the galaxy for something beyond their adaptability and their stubbornness and their creativity. They became known for their fierce, overwhelming, unstoppable love for their children. You may challenge humans on many fronts, Elder Counselor Vireth said in her closing address to the Galactic Council. You may compete with them in trade and territory and science and philosophy. Many species have done so, and many have succeeded in one area or another. She looked around the chamber, her ancient blue eyes meeting the eyes of representatives from 100 different worlds. But there is one thing you must never do. You must never threaten their children. You must never harm their young. Because if you do, you will see a side of humanity that no species has ever survived. She paused, letting her words sink in. Humans are gentle beings in many ways. They create art and music. They form friendships with species they have barely met. They help those in need, even at cost to themselves. But all of that gentleness exists in balance with something else. Something darker. Something more powerful. The holographic display behind her showed images from human history. Parents throughout the ages, protecting their young, fighting for their children, sacrificing everything. When human children are threatened, humans transform. Their fear becomes rage. Their uncertainty becomes focus. Their individual concerns become unified purpose. 23 children were detained on a distant station, and within days, humans crossed the galaxy to bring them home. They did not ask permission. They did not wait for bureaucratic approval. They simply came. She let that image hang in the air. This is the lesson of Korath 9. Humans love their children the way stars love their planets, completely, overwhelmingly, without limit. And they will burn anything that threatens that love. On Station Korath 9, the human families were preparing to leave. The children had been given full medical clearances. The parents had filed all necessary documents. It was time to go home. Little Choi Minho tugged on his mother's sleeve as they walked toward the transport ship. "Mom," he said, "does this mean we are famous?" Yejin laughed through the tears that still came easily when she looked at her son. "Something like that, baby. Something like that." "Cool," Minho said. Then his face grew serious. "Does being famous mean I do not have to do homework when we get home?" "Nice try," his mother said, ruffling his hair. "Homework is definitely still happening." "It was worth asking," Minho sighed. Kim Do-yoon walked behind them with his grandmother. He was quiet, as he had been for the past few days. The weight of what he had done was still settling on him. He had kept 22 younger children alive for 9 days. He had been their leader when they had no one else. "You are thinking too hard," Yoonji said, squeezing his hand. "I keep remembering things," Do-hyun admitted. "The cold floors. The bad food. Little Haniel coughing at night. I tried to keep everyone warm, but sometimes I could not. Sometimes I felt like I was failing." Yoonji stopped walking. She turned to face her grandson, looking up at him with those sharp old eyes. "Listen to me, Do-hyun. You were 15 years old. You were scared and alone and responsible for children younger than yourself. No adult could have done better than you did. Many would have done worse, but no buts." Her voice was firm. "You kept them together. You kept them hopeful. You kept them alive. Do you know what that means?"